Imagine for a moment that you're standing at the starting line of a marathon. You look around and see others ready to run. Some are stretching, some are nervous, and some are smiling with quiet confidence. What sets those confident runners apart? It's not necessarily their physical strength, it's their mindset. The belief that the next 26 miles aren't an obstacle, they're an opportunity. That belief, that inner narrative, is exactly what we're here to build in 30 days. Mindset is the foundation of everything we do. It shapes how we respond to setbacks, how we pursue our goals, and how we measure our own progress. If you change your mindset, you change your story. And if you change your story, you change your entire life. But let me be clear, developing a winning mindset doesn't happen by accident. It is a conscious choice, practiced daily and strengthened through discipline. 30 days is all it takes to begin reshaping the way you see yourself in the world. The first thing you must understand is that a winning mindset is not about winning every single time. It is about refusing to quit even when winning seems far away. It's about building resilience. Every day in these 30 days is a chance to rewire the brain to see possibility where others see barriers. The beauty of this process is that it compounds. Each day adds a layer of strength until, at the end, you are no longer simply reacting to life, you are directing it. Think of the next 30 days as a personal boot camp for your mind. Each day, you'll train your thoughts just as an athlete trains their muscles. On day 1, you might simply affirm a new belief. On day 10, you may start embracing challenges instead of avoiding them. By day 20, failures will begin to look like teachers instead of enemies. And when you reach day 30, you'll stand on a new foundation, unstoppable, resilient, and ready for anything. But here's the most important part. You cannot build this mindset alone. Growth happens in community. Share your journey, talk about your struggles, learn from others, and teach what you discover. Because when you speak your progress out loud, it solidifies within you. A winning mindset is contagious. When you cultivate it, the people around you begin to rise as well. In these 30 days, you're not simply building confidence, you're building clarity. You're not just training discipline, you're building identity. And at the heart of this journey lies one undeniable truth: your mindset is your greatest competitive edge. When you believe deeply in your ability to grow, nothing and no one can stop you. So I ask you, what will your next 30 days look like? Will they be filled with the same doubts and hesitations that held you back yesterday? Or will they be the days that rewrite your future? If you commit, if you show up every single day, you will discover a version of yourself you didn't know existed. A version that doesn't just chase victories, but creates them. That is the power of 30 days. That is how you build an unstoppable winning mindset. 5 keynotes of the speech: mindset shapes outcomes. How you think directly influences how you act and what you achieve. Resilience over perfection. Winning isn't about never failing. It's about refusing to quit. Daily practice compounds. 30 days of consistent effort rewires how you see challenges and opportunities. Community strengthens growth. Sharing progress and learning from others accelerates transformation. Identity shift is the goal. The ultimate reward isn't just confidence, but becoming the person who naturally wins through mindset. Mindset shapes outcomes in ways we often underestimate, because the story we tell ourselves internally is the script that directs our external actions. If someone wakes up believing that they are destined to struggle, that belief silently dictates their decisions, their energy, and their perseverance throughout the day. On the other hand, if a person begins their morning with the conviction that challenges are opportunities to grow, then each obstacle encountered is met with a different kind of energy, an energy that fuels progress instead of surrender. This is why mindset is not just a concept we talk about in motivational conversations. It is the very operating system of our lives. Every achievement or failure is deeply rooted in the thoughts we repeatedly reinforce and the perspective we choose to carry. The connection between mindset and outcomes can be seen in almost every aspect of human behavior. Take, for example, 2 individuals who experience the exact same setback, such as being rejected from a job they desperately wanted. The first person may interpret the rejection as a reflection of their inadequacy, convincing themselves they are not good enough, which leads to discouragement and possibly abandoning future attempts. The second person, however, interprets the rejection as feedback, an invitation to improve their skills, refine their approach, and return stronger next time. The external event was identical, but the internal interpretation dictated 2 entirely different outcomes. That is the power of mindset. It transforms the way we experience the world and, in turn, the results we create. Mindset shapes how we pursue goals as well. When someone carries a fixed mindset, they believe their abilities are limited and unchangeable. This belief stops them from even trying when challenges arise, because in their minds, effort won't change the outcome. In contrast, someone with a growth-oriented mindset believes abilities can be developed through dedication and practice. This person is more likely to persist, to seek learning opportunities, and to continue pushing forward even when success feels far away. Over time, the outcomes of these 2 people diverge dramatically, not because one had better opportunities, but because one believed they could improve and acted accordingly, while the other surrendered to self-imposed limitations. This principle extends far beyond individual achievements. Teams, organizations, and even communities reflect the mindset of their leaders. A leader who sees potential in their people who frames mistakes as stepping stones rather than failures creates a culture of resilience and innovation. In such an environment, outcomes flourish because individuals feel safe to take risks, experiment, and learn. Contrast that with a leader who operates from a scarcity mindset, believing that mistakes are disasters, and that talent is rigid. The team under such leadership becomes fearful, risk-averse, and stagnant. Once again, the results are not a matter of chance, they are a product of mindset. Even science supports this idea. Psychological research has repeatedly shown the effects of expectancy and belief on performance. The placebo effect, for example, is one of the most powerful demonstrations of how mindset shapes physical outcomes. When patients believe a treatment will heal them, their bodies often begin to show real signs of improvement, even when the treatment is inactive. The body follows the mind because belief triggers physiological responses. Similarly, athletes who visualize their success and maintain an optimistic outlook often perform better under pressure than equally skilled athletes who carry doubt. These outcomes are not coincidental. They are manifestations of mindset. Mindset also influences perseverance. When difficulties arise, the default human response is often to retreat into comfort or to stop altogether. But those with a strong, constructive mindset push through discomfort, interpreting it as part of the growth process rather than a signal to quit. This ability to persevere in the face of adversity creates a compounding effect over time. Small wins accumulate, lessons stack up, and confidence grows. Eventually, outcomes that once felt impossible become natural results of consistent effort fueled by the right perspective. On a more personal level, every day presents a choice about which mindset to nurture. For instance, imagine facing a day full of meetings, deadlines, and unexpected issues. One mindset frames the day as overwhelming, already lost before it begins, which leads to rushed decisions and careless mistakes. Another mindset frames the same day as an opportunity to test endurance, sharpen skills, and practice calm under pressure. By the end of the day, the person who carried the second mindset will not only feel more accomplished, but will have likely produced better results. Outcomes follow mindset because mindset influences behavior, and behavior ultimately creates results. When we look at people we admire, athletes, entrepreneurs, artists, or leaders, we often assume their success is solely the result of extraordinary talent or luck. But when we study their journeys closely, we see that talent and opportunity were only parts of the equation. The defining factor was mindset. They chose to interpret challenges differently. They viewed failures as temporary, and they consistently aligned their actions with a belief in growth. Over time, these mental choices translated into tangible achievements. Their outcomes were not accidents. They were the fruit of a cultivated mindset. This is why it is often said that the biggest battle is not external, it is internal. What we achieve in the outside world is a mirror of the battles we've already won or lost in our own minds. By choosing a mindset that focuses on growth, resilience, and possibility, we put ourselves in the best possible position to create outcomes that reflect those values. Each thought becomes a seed, and with repetition, those seeds grow into actions, habits, and ultimately results. Mindset shapes outcomes not in a single moment, but in every moment, compounding into a life that either shrinks under the weight of doubt or expands with the confidence of belief. Resilience over perfection is one of the most powerful principles when it comes to building an unstoppable winning mindset, because perfection is an illusion, but resilience is a choice we can make every single day. Perfection tells us that unless something is flawless, it is not worth doing. Resills us that even if we fall short, even if we fail, even if we face setbacks, we still have the capacity to rise, adapt, and keep moving forward. It is resilience that turns obstacles into stepping stones and failures into valuable teachers. Perfection may look appealing, but it paralyzes growth. Resilience, however, is what fuels long-term success. When people chase perfection, they often delay action. They wait for the perfect time, the perfect skill set, the perfect conditions, and in waiting, they lose momentum. The world is filled with ideas, dreams, and goals that never saw the light of day because their owners were waiting to be perfect before they started. But resilience does not wait. It accepts imperfection as part of the journey and understands that progress is far more important than flawless execution. A resilient person begins even when they are unprepared. They continue even when the circumstances are messy, and they improve along the way. Their outcomes are better not because they avoided mistakes, but because they learned from them. Think about a child learning to walk. That child stumbles, falls, and fails repeatedly. If the child sought perfection, they would never get up after the first fall. But resilience allows the child to rise, try again, and eventually master the skill. Adults, however, often forget this natural resilience we once had as children. We become afraid of failure, afraid of looking inadequate, and in the pursuit of perfection, we begin to hold ourselves back. What we need to remember is that the most successful individuals in any field have failed more times than most people have even tried. Their resilience is what separates them from those who gave up too soon. Resilience also reframes the way we see setbacks. A perfectionist mindset views setbacks as evidence of inadequacy. Each failure feels like a personal defeat that lowers confidence and motivation. But a resilient mindset views setbacks as part of the process, as data that helps us refine our approach. The resilient person asks, what can I learn from this? How can this experience make me stronger, wiser, or more prepared for the next challenge? Instead of closing doors, failures open new ones. This perspective creates a cycle of constant growth where every setback actually becomes fuel for greater outcomes. In the workplace, for instance, Perfection-driven employees might spend excessive amounts of time refining details that do not move the project forward, paralyzed by fear of criticism. Meanwhile, resilient employees are willing to act, test ideas, make mistakes, and then adapt based on feedback. The difference is stark. The perfectionist stalls while the resilient individual evolves. Over time, the resilient mindset creates more innovation, more confidence, and more progress. This principle applies not only in professional life, but in personal growth as well. Relationships, health, and personal development all flourish when we give ourselves permission to be imperfect while committing to stay resilient. Resilience also sustains motivation in the long run. When the goal is perfection, even small mistakes feel like devastating failures, draining energy and leading to discouragement. But when resilience is the focus, mistakes are normalized and expected. They are no longer reasons to quit, but reminders that the process is working. This allows individuals to maintain consistency over long periods of time. Consistency, more than bursts of perfect effort, is what creates real transformation. Whether it is building a career, mastering a skill, or improving health, resilience ensures that the journey continues, even if it is slow and imperfect. Another dimension of resilience over perfection is emotional strength. Life inevitably brings moments of uncertainty, pain, and loss. A perfectionist tries to control every variable, but when life does not cooperate, they feel broken. A resilient person accepts uncertainty as part of life. They may still feel the pain, but they do not let it define them. They adapt, they bend without breaking, and they find ways to move forward despite the storm. This emotional resilience becomes a shield not against difficulty itself, but against the despair that difficulty often brings. History is full of examples that highlight resilience over perfection. Thomas Edison, when working on the light bulb, famously failed thousands of times. If perfection had been his standard, he would have quit long before success arrived. Instead, he reframed each failed attempt as a discovery of one more way that didn't work. His resilience eventually gave the world one of its most important inventions. The same pattern can be seen in countless athletes, artists, and entrepreneurs who failed repeatedly before achieving greatness. Their success stories remind us that perfection is not required, but resilience is non-negotiable. On a personal level, embracing resilience means allowing ourselves to be human. It means letting go of the unrealistic expectation that we must have everything figured out and instead giving ourselves grace to grow. It means accepting that every setback is temporary and that our value is not defined by a single mistake. In this way, resilience becomes not just a skill, but a mindset, one that allows us to keep striving, keep learning, and keep moving forward no matter how many times we fall. By choosing resilience over perfection, we give ourselves permission to be imperfect yet unstoppable. Daily practice compounds in ways that are often invisible at first, but over time it becomes the most powerful force behind growth and transformation. When we think about building a winning mindset, we sometimes imagine a dramatic shift happening overnight, a single breakthrough that changes everything. The truth is, lasting change does not come from one massive effort. It comes from the small, consistent actions we repeat every day, the choices we make in ordinary moments, and the habits we commit to even when no one is watching. The compound effect of daily practice works silently in the background, stacking up progress until one day the results become undeniable. Consider how compound interest works in finance. You invest a small amount regularly, and at first the growth looks minimal. But as time passes, the accumulation becomes exponential, creating wealth that far surpasses the initial effort. The same principle applies to mindset. When we practice positive habits daily, whether it is reframing negative thoughts, focusing on gratitude, or choosing persistence over quitting, we may not see dramatic results in the first week or even the first month. But over time, the compounding effect rewires the way we think, strengthens our resilience, and reshapes our identity. By the end of 30 days, what once felt unnatural begins to feel automatic, and the foundation for long-term success is firmly in place. Daily practice is powerful because it trains the brain through repetition. Neuroscience tells us that our brains are malleable, constantly creating and strengthening neural pathways based on the thoughts and behaviors we repeat. When someone repeatedly focuses on self-doubt, the brain strengthens pathways of insecurity. But when someone consistently chooses empowering thoughts, practices discipline, or takes small courageous actions every day, the brain begins to wire itself for confidence, persistence, and growth. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. A single day of intense effort may feel good, but it will not create lasting change. A daily practice, even if small, gradually reshapes the mind at its core. An athlete does not become great by training once in a while. They commit to daily practice, refining their skills little by little. Over weeks and months, their body adapts, their reflexes sharpen, and their endurance grows. Similarly, someone building a winning mindset strengthens their inner muscles by showing up daily. Writing down goals, reflecting on progress, embracing challenges, or practicing self-discipline each day may not feel groundbreaking in the moment, but it builds momentum. That momentum is the hidden power of compounding. What starts as a single step evolves into a pattern, and that pattern shapes identity. The compounding effect also teaches patience. We live in a world that craves instant gratification. People want results quickly, whether it is success in business, transformation in health, or mastery of a skill. But instant gratification is the enemy of real growth. Daily practice reminds us that the most meaningful changes cannot be rushed. The results of today's effort might not appear tomorrow, but trust in the process ensures that, with consistency, those results are inevitable. This patience is part of what builds a winning mindset, the ability to persist without immediate reward, knowing that every small action is adding weight to the scale of progress. Another element of daily practice is its ability to anchor discipline. On difficult days, when motivation is low and distractions are high, the habit of daily practice becomes the anchor that keeps us aligned with our purpose. A person who practices resilience daily does not need to rely solely on bursts of inspiration because their routine carries them forward. They do not ask themselves if they feel like doing the work. They simply do it because it has become part of who they are. Over time, this discipline not only produces results, but also deepens self-respect as we begin to trust ourselves to follow through on our commitments. Daily practice compounds not only in skills, but in confidence. Every small action completed is a deposit into the bank of self-belief. For instance, if someone sets the practice of speaking up once a day in meetings, at first it may feel uncomfortable. But after a month of repetition, that discomfort begins to fade, replaced by growing confidence. If another person commits to reading 10 pages of a book each day, at first the impact feels negligible, but after a year they have read dozens of books, expanded their knowledge, and shifted their thinking dramatically. These examples show how consistent small actions produce results far greater than their individual weight. One of the most overlooked aspects of compounding is that it works in both directions. Positive habits create growth, but negative habits also compound. If someone consistently chooses procrastination, self-doubt, or excuses, those actions also build over time, leading to diminished results and stagnation. This is why being intentional with daily practice is so crucial. Every day is either moving us closer to becoming unstoppable or further away from it. The choice of which way to compound belongs to us. Ultimately, daily practice compounds into identity. At first, habits feel like actions we force ourselves to take. But as days turn into weeks and weeks into months, those habits become part of who we are. The person who once struggled to stay consistent begins to see themselves as disciplined. The individual who once doubted their abilities begins to see themselves as capable. This shift in identity is the true power of compounding. It no longer feels like effort, it feels like authenticity. That transformation is what makes a winning mindset unstoppable, because it is no longer just something we do, it becomes who we are. Community strengthens growth because no individual achieves their greatest potential in isolation. Human beings are wired for connection, and while personal discipline and self-belief are crucial, the environment we immerse ourselves in often determines how far we go. Growth is amplified when it is shared, when it is nurtured by encouragement, and when it is challenged by accountability. A supportive community serves as both a mirror and a catalyst. It reflects our potential back to us when we forget it, and it pushes us further when we begin to settle for less. This is why the journey to building an unstoppable winning mindset is never a solitary one. It is a collective effort that thrives on shared energy and mutual growth. When people come together with the same intention of improvement, the collective belief becomes contagious. Imagine a person trying to build resilience or discipline on their own. The internal battle is real, and on hard days, it is easy to give in to doubt or distraction. But when that person is surrounded by others who are also striving, the energy of the group becomes a force that sustains them. Seeing others persevere provides proof that progress is possible, and encouragement from peers gives the strength to keep going. Growth in community is not just faster, it is deeper, because it is reinforced by shared stories, shared struggles, and shared victories. Community also provides accountability, which is one of the most underrated drivers of growth. Left alone, it is easy to justify excuses, to convince ourselves that skipping one day will not matter, or to lower the standards we set for ourselves. But in the presence of others who are watching, supporting, and expecting the best from us, excuses lose their power. Accountability partners, mentors, or groups do not let us drift quietly into mediocrity. They remind us of the commitments we made, and they push us to live up to our potential. This accountability does not come from judgment, but from belief in what we are capable of. Knowing that someone else believes in us often helps us believe in ourselves a little more. The strength of community lies not only in support, but also in challenge. Growth requires friction. When we surround ourselves only with those who agree with us, we stagnate. But when a community challenges our ideas, questions our assumptions, and pushes us beyond our comfort zone, it sharpens us. It helps us see blind spots we would have ignored on our own and encourages us to stretch into new levels of growth. Communities that challenge us in healthy ways make us stronger, more resilient, and more prepared for the realities of life. Another way community strengthens growth is through shared learning. Each person carries unique experiences, perspectives, and lessons. When individuals share their journeys openly, others are able to learn without having to repeat the same mistakes. This exchange of wisdom accelerates growth for everyone involved. For example, in professional environments, one person's breakthrough becomes a roadmap for others. In personal growth communities, one individual's resilience through adversity inspires others to face their own challenges with courage. Knowledge multiplies when it is shared, and growth becomes exponential when a group of people learns together. Community also reinforces identity. Alone, we may tell ourselves a new story, but old doubts have a way of creeping back in. In a strong community, however, the collective narrative strengthens the identity we are trying to build. If you are working to see yourself as disciplined, resilient, or capable, being part of a group that embodies and affirms those qualities makes the identity more real. Others see qualities in us we might overlook in ourselves, and their recognition helps solidify our belief. This is why athletes thrive in teams, why entrepreneurs gather in mastermind groups, and why students perform better when they learn together. The community reinforces the identity needed to succeed. The energy of community also sustains motivation. Motivation naturally fluctuates. No one feels inspired every single day. But in a group, energy circulates. On days when one other person feels weak, another person's strength carries them. On days when enthusiasm is low, someone else's excitement reignites the spark. This shared motivation ensures that progress continues even when individual willpower dips. Growth becomes a collective rhythm rather than a solitary struggle, and this rhythm sustains long-term consistency. On a deeper level, community creates belonging, and belonging fuels confidence. To know that we are not alone in our struggles, to feel understood and supported, removes the isolation that often magnifies doubt. Belonging creates psychological safety, a space where we can be honest about failures, seek help without shame, and celebrate victories without fear of judgment. This environment of trust accelerates growth because it allows us to take risks and step outside comfort zones without the paralyzing fear of rejection. Examples of this principle can be found throughout history and everyday life. Great movements, innovations, and transformations have rarely been the product of isolated individuals. They were born in communities shaped by collective effort and sustained by shared belief. From artistic circles that inspired creativity to support groups that empower personal healing, the pattern is clear: growth thrives in connection. Ultimately, a community is both a safety net and a launching pad. It catches us when we fall, preventing failure from breaking us, and it launches us higher than we could have gone alone. The bonds we form with others amplify discipline, resilience, and identity in ways we cannot replicate by ourselves. A winning mindset grows stronger in community because it is reinforced, challenged, celebrated, and shared. The journey of 30 days or even a lifetime of growth becomes not just about what we achieve individually, but about how we rise together. Identity shift is the goal because lasting change is never about simply modifying behavior. It is about transforming the way we see ourselves. A winning mindset does not come from forcing ourselves to act differently for a short period of time. It emerges when our actions align so consistently with new beliefs that they become part of who we are. When identity shifts, discipline is no longer a struggle, resilience no longer feels like effort, and confidence no longer requires constant reminders. Instead of saying, "I am trying to be disciplined," we begin to say, "I am disciplined." That shift in language signals a deeper truth. We are no longer chasing a temporary outcome. We are living as the kind of person who naturally creates those outcomes. Most people focus on goals when they want to grow. They say, "I want to lose weight, I want to make more money, I want to be more confident." Goals are important, but they are external markers. Identity is internal. A person can achieve a goal without truly changing, and often that leads to temporary results. For example, someone might follow a strict routine to achieve a fitness target, but if deep down they still see themselves as someone who is unhealthy or undisciplined, they eventually fall back into old habits. Real transformation occurs when the person begins to see themselves differently, not as someone forcing healthy habits, but as someone who simply is healthy and committed to well-being. This shift makes the behaviors natural rather than forced. Identity is powerful because it determines behavior. Human beings are wired to act in alignment with the way they see themselves. If a person identifies as lazy, even unconsciously, they will act in ways that reinforce that belief. If someone identifies as disciplined, they will find ways to stay consistent even when life becomes difficult. The identity we adopt becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. That is why the ultimate aim of building an unstoppable mindset is not just achieving goals, but reshaping identity so that the desired behaviors flow naturally from who we are. The process of identity shift often begins with small actions. Every choice we make is a vote for the kind of person we want to become. When we wake up early to work on our goals, we cast a vote for the identity of someone disciplined. When we persist through failure instead of giving up, we cast a vote for the identity of someone resilient. These single choices might feel insignificant in the moment, but over time they add up, and eventually the evidence becomes too strong to ignore. Our brains begin to accept the new identity because our actions consistently support it. This is why daily practices, no matter how small, play such a critical role. They provide proof to ourselves of who we are becoming. Identity shift also requires us to let go of old stories. Many people carry limiting identities from their past, shaped by failures, criticisms, or comparisons. They tell themselves, "I'm not good at this," or "I always give up," and those stories keep them stuck. To create a winning mindset, we must consciously rewrite those narratives. Instead of clinging to the identity of someone who always fails, we can choose the identity of someone who learns. Instead of believing we are unworthy, we can choose the identity of someone who is growing stronger every day. The past may provide evidence of one story, but the future can be shaped by a new one if we are willing to shift the way we define ourselves. Another important aspect of identity shift is environment. The communities we belong to and the people we surround ourselves with reinforce our identity. If we spend time with people who constantly complain, we begin to see ourselves as complainers too. But if we engage with people who value growth, resilience, and perseverance, our identity begins to mirror those traits. This is why community is such a powerful catalyst for identity change. It validates the new story we are telling ourselves and provides external confirmation that we are becoming the person we want to be. Examples of identity shift are everywhere. A smoker who truly changes does not just say, I am trying to quit smoking. They say, I am not a smoker. That simple declaration signals that the identity has changed. And once identity shifts, the behaviors that once seemed impossible begin to align with it. The same is true for athletes who go from being hobbyists to professionals. They no longer see training as something they do occasionally. It becomes who they are. Entrepreneurs who once saw themselves as employees shift their identity to builders and risk takers, and that new identity fuels decisions that create entirely different outcomes. Identity shift is also what sustains growth when challenges come. Someone who only chases goals may quit when circumstances become tough, but someone who has embraced a new identity cannot easily abandon it. If I only set a goal to run a marathon, I might stop training after the race is over. But if I see myself as a runner, I will continue running because it aligns with my identity, not just because of a goal. This is the difference between temporary motivation and lasting transformation. Ultimately, the shift in identity is what makes a winning mindset unstoppable. Goals may come and go, achievements may rise and fall, but identity anchors us. Once we believe deeply that we are the kind of person who persists, who grows, who adapts, and who wins, no external circumstance can take that away. The goal is no longer to prove ourselves through achievements. The goal is to live in alignment with the identity we have chosen. From that place, achievements naturally follow, but they are no longer the destination. They are simply the byproduct of who we have become. The journey of 30 days is not about a quick fix or a temporary boost. It is about laying the foundation for a mindset that endures. Over these days, we learn that the thoughts we carry shape the outcomes we create. That resilience matters far more than perfection, that small, consistent practices compound into life-changing results. That growth is accelerated in the strength of community. And that true transformation happens when our identity itself evolves. When all of these lessons come together, what we build is not just confidence or discipline, but a version of ourselves that cannot be shaken by setbacks or defined by failure. An unstoppable winning mindset is not a destination we reach, but a way of living we choose every single day. And when we choose it consistently and deliberately, we not only change our own story, we give others permission to rise and change theirs too.